Where there's smoke, there is most definitely fire. What's burning? Maybe the remaining time in this marriage between Nebraska and Mike Ekeler.
You are Locked On Nebraska, your daily Nebraska Cornhuskers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Good morning, and thanks for making Locked On Nebraska your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network, your team every day. And today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase.
All right, welcome. It is Thursday. Connor Happer here, Mitch Sherman there. It is the Locked On Nebraska podcast. For reference, because things move fast in the portal world, we are recording this on Wednesday night, just a little shy of 8 o'clock. So just so you know, if we miss anything, it's not on purpose. It's probably just because it happened over the last 12 hours.
I feel like we just did a show, Connor.
We did. We're going to have to get into some sort of a rhythm. I don't know where it's going to be. I don't know what it's going to be, but I do think the consistency is a good thing. So we'll find it. I gotta settle in with the old day job.
How's your sleep pattern?
Not good.
Sleep health right now.
Not good. We're a little worn down at the moment, but we'll steady out in a week or so, I hope.
When basketball season's over, you should be doing better.
Maybe, but then there's baseball. So, I don't know.
Yeah, that is true. All right. Well, hey, there were no portal headlines in the 5 or 6 hours since we last did a show. Nothing new to tell you from the portal on Wednesday. Nebraska's portal class remains at 15 commits heading into the final weekend of visits. As of today, Thursday, the dead period is over. So come back in, visitors. Have a look around the Nebraska football facilities, and the Huskers will see if they can add a couple of more players in the trenches, maybe a running back. We will find out. But there was an addition to the future of Nebraska football at some point on Wednesday, and it's a quarterback, if you can believe that. Nebraska has added to its recruiting class for the 2026 cycle. It's now up to 12 players, the 10 that the Huskers signed back in December. Then you add in that defensive tackle from Iowa Western, Anthony Colandrea, and now Tanner Vibabul.
That'd be my guess.
Is there any chance I got that right?
I think that would be my guess. I don't know for sure, though.
Tanner Vibabul, the quarterback from Las Vegas, who visited Lincoln just last weekend. He is 6'1", 175 pounds. So he's probably going to redshirt in 2026. I think you can go to the bank with that, put on some weight, and he'll be number 4 at the highest when he walks into Nebraska, which has Anthony Colandrea, TJ Lateef, and Daniel Kalen. So Tanner is rated as a 3-star prospect by 24/7 Sports. He had offers from Matt Rhule's old school Temple and then the service academies, in addition to Arkansas State, which the service academies offers tell you that he is a runner.
Yep.
And then Nebraska was his first Power 4 offer here in this month of January. He is a true dual threat, even more so than Lateef. Scored 44 touchdowns, rushed for nearly 15 yards per carry last season as a senior in Las Vegas. So maybe young Vibabul has watched Anthony Colandrea in person since they shared time in Sin City with Colandrea at UNLV. So we can see now the direction that this Nebraska quarterback room is very much headed as it fills up with these dual threat and mobile pieces to give the Nebraska offense a certain kind of element.
Yeah, and I like the mix too. There's just a bunch of different types of players in there. I guess we don't know much about Vibabul yet, but he doesn't project to play, like you said, anytime soon here. But Colandrea is sort of this like gunslinger, like outside the pocket is best when the play breaks down. Kalen's got a little bit of runner to him, but he's more of a
more pocket passer.
Like I'll do the stuff that's in front of me, and I'll take the check downs and that kind of player. And Latif is probably a pretty decent mix of both at this point in his career. And then you add in Vibabul, who has a chance to sit and develop and eventually, I think, be a weapon in the running game, at least from what it seems like on paper. He did throw for over 2,000 yards, so it's not like he didn't throw it all. It's not like he was like the quarterback of the Miller North Wishbone offense last year in Las Vegas. But
correct.
Yeah, I like the spread, and the quarterback room, I think is in pretty healthy shape at this point.
I don't know what kind of competition he was going against at Las Vegas High School. So he is not from Bishop Gorman, which is where, if you're recruiting in Las Vegas, it's very possible as a Power 4 prospect you're playing at Bishop Gorman, where Nebraska held its practice sessions ahead of the Las Vegas Bowl. But definitely an under the radar prospect, ranked as the number 22 prospect in the state of Nevada. So interesting find. Maybe it's a diamond in the rough for Nebraska. Maybe this is something that Matt Rhule and Dana Holgerson and Glenn Thomas can turn into a productive piece down the road. But it certainly doesn't hurt to add that kind of depth to your QB position here ahead of 2026 with Trey Taylor coming in a year from now.
Right, no doubt. It's just nothing is expected. It's possible. It's a flyer. It's a late flyer in that situation, and you have them, and you let them hang around and sort of see where it goes after that. Let's get to this. So we'll spend some time on what Matt Rhule did a media appearance on Wednesday. That is one thing that happened.
Breaking news.
A variety of different, like long-ranging, wide-ranging topics. The one that is the most important as of this moment, I think, is the one regarding Mike Ekeler, which we have talked about over the last couple of days, and he certainly didn't shut down the rumor that USC is in hot pursuit, and maybe even continue to stoke the flame that that's where this might end up.
Right. So Rhule talked with Zach Gelb of 365 Sports and Compass Media. You can check him out on X at Zach, ZACHGELB. He's got a link to his YouTube interview. So Gelb is an old media friend of Matt Rhule's from their time together in the Northeast when Rhule was at Philly. Gelb had a show out there. And he may have been in New York. He may have been in Philly. I think he's spent time in both places and got to know Matt Rhule. Gelb was in Lincoln and was part of Rhule's podcast in the fall. So this was Matt returning the favor and going on Gelb's show on Wednesday. And yeah, it was about a 30-minute interview, and they talk some NFL, and they talk about a bunch of stuff that we'll get to here on this episode. First time Rhule has done anything publicly since the New Year's Eve Las Vegas Bowl postgame. So the big thing, yes, is Eckler. And Rhule said, if a guy wants to leave, then he can leave. Okay. He added that he would like to see Mike Ekeler stay at Nebraska. And then Rhule said that he offered Eckler a, quote, huge extension, end quote, to be the number 1 or 2 highest paid special teams coordinator nationally. And that was on Eckler's desk in the middle of the season. So this has not been signed. Nebraska did not get a signed contract back as of Wednesday afternoon when Rhule conducted this interview from Mike Ekeler. And while USC was not named in this back and forth between Gelb and Rhule, it's clear that that's what we're talking about. There are media reports out of Los Angeles that Eckler has been in talks with Lincoln Riley and USC for a job in LA, presumably as the special teams coordinator for the Trojans, but maybe to do something in addition to that. Rhule hinted that maybe Eck wanted some more responsibilities. They used him coaching the edge rushers before the before the bowl game, but his job at Nebraska, as it was in 2025, would in 2026 be to coach the special teams. And
he mentioned, Mitch, all in that same sort of breath, that they hired Rob Orich as the defensive coordinator, and this was all sort of intertwined in the answer about
want the
Eckler.
DC job.
That's sort of the way it came off to me. And veteran listeners of this podcast, I wanted that. Like I thought that would have been very interesting. If he would have been the defensive coordinator, this instead of my twin brother Rob, who goes by a different last name than me, but it sounded like that's the rub with Eckler. Just wanted a little bit more responsibility, whether it's coaching a position or having a co-DC tag on him or something like that. It feels like that's our situation here.
Yeah, it could be. I don't know why, if that's the case, that Eckler was hesitant to sign a contract extension back in the middle of the season. And maybe it's because at that point he had already decided that he wanted more responsibility than just to be the special teams coordinator, or maybe he wasn't feeling the vibe. Maybe he wasn't feeling the connection with whatever was going on in his first year at Nebraska. I mean, it certainly has happened before with where things just weren't the perfect fit. So I don't know. I mean, like, until we hear it from Mike Ekeler, and we may or may not ever hear it from Mike Ekeler, and maybe Mike Ekeler will stay. Maybe he'll pull an 11th. It certainly sounded like Rhule was wishing him well.
Yeah, I think so.
He didn't say as much, but he did talk about how Nebraska would replace Mike Ekeler if he were to leave, which is seemingly a sign that he's headed in that direction.
Yeah.
We discussed this on the pod on Wednesday, and this is the direction I thought Nebraska would go. A little bit surprised that Matt Rhule went so far as to say it now. One, before Eckler left, and two, even right after Eckler left. I think you would, if I was in Matt Rhule's spot, I would probably say, yeah, we're going to go find the best guy and maybe talk to some people who might be interested in being a $600,000 or $700,000 defensive coordinator at Nebraska. Give him Mike Eckler's contract that he was offered. Find the best special teams coordinator. But it sounds as if Nebraska is going to want to go with Josh Martin and or Nick Humphreys, who both worked under Eck on special teams in 2025, and just kind of implement the style, the philosophy that Eckler brought to Nebraska from Tennessee. If you don't have the guy, do you still have the special sauce?
I mean, I guess we'll see. Here's what I'll say. They seem to really like proving to people that they can do stuff without one person. They seem to like that idea. So we'll see. That doesn't feel very comfortable to me. It's certainly possible. But
this is the Tony White conversation all over again.
Yeah, it's interesting. So I don't know. I don't know. That's going to sit well with people. It does seem like something brewing there.
No, it's not going to sit well with people. There's not really any way to spin it, and you can already hear the damage control there by Rhule in bringing up the fact that he did everything that he could, put a big contract in front of him, and clearly that's true. I mean, he's not going to make that up. Like they gave him an offer that was, I'm sure, very attractive. And as I said, maybe Eck will decide at the last minute to sign that, and we'll stop talking about this topic. But if he leaves, then it's going to be something we talk about for quite a while through the offseason until we see what Nebraska's special teams look like in 2026. All right, we take a break. We come back. We talk more about what Matt Rhule had to say, including some news about the coaching staff, that not the Mike Ekeler side of the coaching staff, the defensive coaching staff, an addition, a new hire for Nebraska. That's coming up next. First, a word from Gametime. There's nothing like college football season, and there's one game left in the college football season, but there are still tailgates. There is still a packed stadium, and there is still the opportunity to be right there in the middle of it all. Buy a plane ticket, go to Miami, use Gametime to get your opportunity to get inside the national championship game. You can feel the energy. You can listen to the bands. It can be a moment that you will remember forever, but actually getting tickets to that game, That part used to be frustrating with long queues, logins, and prices that jump around. That's not the case with Gametime. It gives the advantage back to the fans. It's the easiest way to unlock amazing college football tickets and experiences in just a few taps. We could be talking about 2026 here too if you're not going to Miami on Monday. The app is incredibly easy to use. You can go from browsing to buying in just minutes. They have zone deals where you pick the section, Gametime picks the seats, and then you save the cash. Know the prices all up front. Make the process stress-free. Take the guesswork out of buying college football tickets with Gametime. Download the app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Download the Gametime app today. All right, we're back. Thanks for making Locked On Nebraska your first listen of the day, and thanks for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. Hey, before we move on with Matt Rhule's comments from Wednesday, I wanted to say that I was incorrect, way incorrect during the show on Wednesday in talking about Oregon's guard Wei Lin. I said, yes, this is the younger brother of Jeremy Lin, the NBA. Is he still in the NBA? I don't know the
Definitely
NBA
not.
well enough.
Definitely not.
Definitely out of the NBA.
Yep.
One-time NBA sensation. See, I didn't say he's in the NBA. I would have been wrong again. They are not related. Jeremy Lin and Wei Lin. So thanks to the good people at Husker Hoop Central for pointing that out to me on Twitter, that they both have the same last name or surname. I'm not going to try to explain it more than what I understand his name to be. They both have Lin in their names. And they are not related. Amazingly, there are billions of people who live in Asia and probably many thousands or hundreds of thousands with that name. I read something on the internet, Connor, during the game.
You got AI'd
during the game because I was like, oh, Wei Lin. I wonder if he's related to Jeremy. So I typed it into my Google, and it told me, yes, that they are related and that they played on the same team in China.
Oh, my God.
Well, Jeremy Lin is from California. I've later come to find out he did not play. I don't think he played in China. I don't know. He's of Chinese descent. Taiwan. No, he's from Taiwan, or if his family's from Taiwan. I don't know what I'm talking about here, but they are not related.
You had it at I was wrong. But yeah, hey, happens to the best of us. We get AI'd, we start Googling stuff, and that thing is wrong about 75% of the time. So you gotta be careful. You gotta be careful on that one.
Mm-hmm. We gotta be really careful there. Okay. Why don't you go ahead and go on to the next subject? I can stop talking.
More things from Zach Gelb and Matt Rhule on Wednesday. Rhule said they are indeed seemingly going to hire Corey Brown. Still odd to me that it hasn't happened yet. I mean, I'm sure it's all clerical stuff, but he said
it's going through the HR processes.
Yeah. So I mean, it's been quite some time now, but yes. That's in the process.
Miami of Ohio. Yes.
Right. So I don't know exactly what the holdup there is outside of HR. I like this one. He was talking about the progress of his program, and he's mentioned this several times that he didn't do it overnight. And many coaches around the country have lamented that Curt Cignetti has ruined football for them, has ruined trajectories and timeframes and things like that because he did it so fast at a place like Indiana. Rhule said, quote, "I haven't been able to do it overnight. Indiana did, and I did not. I have to own that." Yeah. Like what he's saying and what every coach needs to be saying around the country is like, it's very simple. And I wouldn't shame Rhule for saying this. I think he, I don't know, but Cignetti's just better than everybody else. Like Cignetti is just like, I don't get why
he's a freak of nature. Yeah.
He's a freaking magician. Like he is the best coach in the country, bar none. That's why he got it done so fast. Simple. It's done.
You're right. He's a Hall of Famer today if he stepped aside just for the work that he's done at Indiana, not to mention everything he did at all the schools before that. It's hard for coaches to say that other coaches are better than them. That's definitely a hard thing to do, especially when you've made it up to the Big Ten at a supposed blue blood program. Rhule also said that Miles Taylor is joining the Nebraska staff on the defensive side to coach safeties. Miles Taylor in 2025 was in the NFL Coaching Fellowship Program with the Chargers. Prior to that, he spent 5 seasons at South Dakota, where he overlapped with Rob Orich and Corey Brown. And like Brown, Miles Taylor is an Iowa grad and a former Hawkeye defensive player under Phil Parker. So if you can't beat him, just go hire him. And that's what Nebraska seems to be doing with pieces of its defensive staff, or at least what Rob Orich is doing with pieces of his defensive staff. He's like, I like what they're doing over there at Iowa. So I'm going to hire Corey Brown, who played there. I'm going to hire Miles Taylor, who played there. And both of those guys spent time at USD with Nebraska's new defensive coordinator. So they're getting the band back together, moving up from what's the conference? What a Summit League? Is that what they play in there in Vermillion? Football?
It'd be the
basketball thing.
It'd be the Missouri Valley.
Yeah, the Missouri Valley Football Conference. They don't have the Summit League in football, or do they?
They do not. Most of them are in the Missouri Valley. It's like the SEC of the FCS.
Yeah. So big jump. I mean, Orich obviously has been in the Mountain West, and Corey Brown's been in the MAC. But this is a lot of Group of 5 and FCS pedigree coming to run this Nebraska defense. So, we can start getting worked up about that, like 3, 2, 1. But those guys they have Iowa blood in them. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes. You need players. You need players.
Out to you from a quote perspective from Rhule on that. I mean, we'll talk about Colandrea in a couple minutes, but anything else about?
He said on the subject of taking, it was wide ranging, like you said. This interview with Zach Gelb. Rhule said just more on the subject of taking over at Nebraska when he did, and kind of the situation that he inherited and the hill that they had to climb. He said, "I didn't create the problem at Nebraska."
This has been something that he has now said a couple press conferences in a row. Yeah.
And then talking about his staff, he said that they've gotten quote, gotten us to respectability, the staff that Matt Rhule has put together, and now we've got to get us to dominance. So this was in the same set of comments about Cignetti. And what's funny is he didn't get asked about Cignetti. He didn't get asked about Indiana. Well, he did in a different part of the interview get asked who he liked in the championship game on Monday night. And Rhule said he'll be rooting for the Hoosiers because he's a Big Ten guy. But that part about bringing up Cignetti and talking about the past at Nebraska, like he didn't get asked about Indiana. Like, these coaches just want to bring that up. It's like, I know you guys are thinking about Indiana over there. It's like, actually, we weren't thinking about Indiana, but
yeah, people keep talking about it though. I thought that was fascinating too. I don't know. I don't know if if this is the staff, if he's the guy to get them to quote unquote dominance. But I do agree with him that it's respectable. It's certainly in better shape than it was when he took over. So, we'll see what happens next, and we'll see how much time he has to get that done.
Okay, let's take a break. We come back and we talk about why Matt Rhule knew that Anthony Colandrea was the guy for Nebraska when the young quarterback came on a visit last Tuesday. That is next.
All right, welcome back. Connor Happer and Mitch Sherman with you. Back on the Locked On Nebraska podcast. So talking about our new quarterback, Tony. Rhule referenced the situation with Kenny Minchey, saying that Nebraska then moved quickly to bring in 3 quarterbacks last week, or early in last week. It would have been Tuesday. Yep. And Colandrea was one of the 3, and not Nebraska's top target until something happened.
Yeah, Rhule said they were out on the field, and they must have done one of those. We saw the video of Nebraska bringing in Dwayne McDougal and Owen Chambliss, and how the players got out of the SUV coming straight from the airport, and they were greeted by a welcome line of Nebraska coaching personnel and administrative personnel. And it sounded like it was one of those moments when Colandrea got to Lincoln and he was out on the field, like moving from person to person, introducing himself. And Rhule said that in his history as a coach, that he's learned that there are quarterbacks who just have it. Yeah. And it's been explained to him before. Like the example that he used was Tim Tebow, that when he walked into a room, you just knew that guy was going to win. And this is how Matt Rhule felt upon meeting and watching Anthony Colandrea interact with folks at Nebraska. He said that Colandrea was not the quarterback who was at the top of their list, and that they were transparent with all of the players they were bringing in about what was happening on that Tuesday. This is the day after Kenny Minchie flipped to Kentucky. But in watching Colandrea, Rhule said he turned to Assistant General Manager Logan Holgerson. That's that's
interesting.
Logan Holgerson is the Assistant General Manager at Nebraska, Dana Holgerson's son. And Rhule said, "That's my guy. We got us one, and we feel real." And then he said later on, "And we feel really good about it."
Yeah, I think there's 2 sides to this. So it's a fascinating, sort of look into Rhule's brain. I think first of all, he's right? Like, especially coming off of the last couple of years where I don't know how many times we've talked about it on this podcast, but it just feels a little dull at times, it lacks some energy. Like you can kind of tell what happens when you have a quarterback who people like to rally around. And this is the kind of player. I don't know about his personality. I don't know anything about him, but this is the style of player that is exciting and energetic. And people will want to rally around as long as there's more good than bad, which that is the expectation with Colandrea. The other side of it is it's quite he must have made quite the first impression, I mean, getting out of
see video of that.
Yeah.
Like behind the scenes, give us the video of that.
Ooh.
How he
That's my guy right there. Like, oh man, that's really going on a limb from just like, I don't know how I would be. Like, I like to, if I was a person who was trying to, get the job at Nebraska, like I'd want to show all of my personality. I don't know if I'd be able to do it in like an hour, like
it's like
tough.
Hey, what happened on the visit? Did you watch him throw? Did you watch him run? Did you take him into the film room and break down some plays? Talk some football, trade terminology, ask him about his past as a quarterback, the different places he's been, from Virginia to UNLV, his high school experiences, what it was like to be recruited before. No, none of that. Saw him walking around the field and shaking people's hands and saying hello, and I knew he was my guy.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
operate like that. I mean, that's it's interesting. So it's a little bit of a gamble just considering the turnover history there. But he's got the experience, and I think at the very least is really exciting.
I look forward to the opportunity that the media gets with Anthony Colandrea, so we can ask him about what that was like when he first got to Nebraska. I mean, seriously, when he first got to Nebraska and he got off the plane, and this guy's from Florida. He played at Virginia. He played at UNLV. I mean, this very possibly may have been the first time that he's ever been to Nebraska. And
certainly, right? Yeah.
Yeah, you would think. And first time in Memorial Stadium, and he gets out, and you're trying to make a good impression. And, he apparently knew the situation, that this school that was offering him $1 million or more was also looking at 2 others on that day, and you're being evaluated in every way. And to find out later that the head coach settled on you because he just kind of liked your energy and liked your personality. Like I'm interested what Colandrea was, what he was doing, what he was thinking in that moment.
Yeah.
So we'll find out someday. It probably will have no impact at all on how many passes he completes or how few interceptions, however many interceptions he throws or doesn't throw.
I want to mention this before we get out of here. And once again, I'm sure by the time this comes out, people will have sort of heard this by now, and there may even be more on this. But a few reports floating around right now locally that Nebraska is hosting a 6'5", 330-pound defensive tackle from Oregon over the next couple days. Terrence Green, who will be a redshirt junior next year, originally out of Cypress, Texas, and so that would be that'd be your big fish on the defensive line that everybody's sort of searching for.
Yeah, no kidding. This is a trade. This is the player to be named later in the Dylan Raiola trade. I actually saw a reference to this on social media on Wednesday, and you know it was a reference to that. Like, okay, you get Raiola, we get. You say it was Terrence Green?
Terrence Green.
Okay, all right. A name to watch for the weekend. Speaking of Dylan Raiola, Rhule was asked about Raiola during his interview on Wednesday, and he went back to Dylan's recruitment and revisited that. And Rhule mentioned that when they brought Dylan in December of 2023, Nebraska was also working on visits with Sam Leavitt and some other quarterbacks. Rhule mentioned Kyle McCord, who did come in on a visit, and then Rhule said that he decided to go with the young player. And then Rhule said that going the young player route is probably not the way to go.
Interesting.
In college football today. And, you know, maybe it was. Maybe they thought it. Well, certainly they thought it was. Maybe they had reason to believe that it was back in 2023. But that's a lifetime ago in the direction, you know, the path, the evolution of college football. So today, in the place that things are at, you go get a veteran quarterback. You go do what Indiana did in getting Fernando Mendoza.
Mm-hmm.
You go do what Miami did, and you end up in the national. Now, it's not to say that and that alone will get you to the national championship game, but Carson Beck and Fernando Mendoza are the two quarterbacks duking it out for the national championship. They're both older veteran quarterbacks who played at other schools last year. So that does seem to be the formula now that works in this sport. So Nebraska is doing something similar here with at least attempting to do something similar with Colandrea, and that'll maybe be the route from here. It sure does make it interesting to think about what Nebraska is going to do in the years ahead, because they still seem intent on recruiting quarterbacks from high school and turning them into Nebraska starters. So you're going to go against the grain on that, or you just hope it works out? I guess.
I mean, there's a way you could thread that needle. I mean, you get another stopgap quarterback next year or in 2 years or whatever, and then you hand the reins over to Trey Taylor if you really think he's that guy. I want to go back to what, you know, the sort of line there on Raiola and the recruitment of him. Like, to be clear, everybody thought that was a good idea at the time. You know, I thought it made all the sense in the world to drop what they were doing with McCord and anybody else. This is before we really know what Sam Leavitt was going to end up being. He went to the playoff that year with Arizona State. I thought it was very
now off to LSU
to drop everything and bring in Dylan Raiola and start from there.
Dylan was the golden goose. He was the big fish. He was what everybody had wanted for Matt Rhule in the entire 12 months before that, 13 months before that Matt Rhule had been on the job in Nebraska. So I am definitely not second guessing that. It's just interesting. Rhule was somewhat second guessing himself 2 years later.
I don't blame him. I mean, I think there's a lot of things that are different if it goes the other way. You know, but I don't blame him for I don't blame him for going that direction. That's all.
Yeah. All right. Well, hopefully there's no other big news here on Wednesday night that happens before you hear this podcast on Thursday. If there is, we'll get to it on Friday. We have a mailbag show coming at you on Friday. Get your questions in, get them in on Thursday, and we'll have a show out for you on Friday morning. And then it's the weekend, and then Nebraska basketball, the big show in town, is back in action, trying to get to 18-0 on Saturday afternoon at Northwestern in Evanston. So we'll have some questions about Husker hoops undoubtedly in our Friday mailbag. The way to reach us there is lockedonneb@gmail.com. Or if you have a direct line to us, you can always send those questions that way too. Thanks for making Locked On Nebraska your first listen today. For your second listen, right now we're going to send you on YouTube to the national 24/7 Locked On Podcast Network YouTube channel. And on audio, make your second listen Locked On College Football. Thank you for joining us today.